So we light the chalice, we light the flame for the earth, for its resilience, its beauty, and its unfailing generosity. It reminds us of our duty to protect, cherish, and restore the living world. So today is all about Earth Speaks, We Listen, a reflection on ecology, interdependence, and climate hope. So what brought this theme for today was I had a meeting or dialogue, interfaith dialogue on ecology and climate, and I thought it'd be nice to bring some of that idea here today. Is that in the way? Is that okay? Come.
No.
Okay. So that's what we'll be looking at today. So let's get straight into our first hymn, which is number 147, Spirit of Earth, Root, Stone and Tree. So a quick reading from Thich Nhat Hanh, Love Letter to the Earth. You are not outside of me, and I am not outside of you. We are inter-are. When I care for you, I care for myself. When I harm you, I harm myself. Very wise person, I think, Thich Nhat Hanh, and comes out with a lot of wise sayings. So my foray into climate and ecology and everything like that started really when I was doing my engineering qualification. And I had to do one of the projects or studies I had to do was I had to choose, but I did it on green energy. So which was very interesting. So there's various things I looked into: wave energy, wind, as well as the current, electric, gas, and biofuels and stuff like that. And one of the things I looked at was, what if you could use the energy from plants to grow a crop, get different stuff from that, oil or whatever. But the problem with that, as we expand and as the earth gets bigger, you need more crop fields, not only for food now, but for energy. And you probably run out of, we'll probably have enough fields in which to maintain the amount of energy that we need from that kind of thing. So, but one of the real things that hit home for me was the amount that the human race is expanding. So we're now at 8 million people, 8 billion people, sorry. So what would happen when we keep expanding? So when we get to like 10 billion people, and so the records show that that would be another problem with resources that we have in the earth. So 10 billion people, we're likely to hit that somewhere in the mid-century. So, you're not talking, that far away. And because of the resources all over the world, you would have to start sharing that. And one of the ideas is that we may have to have different things on our plate. Might have to cut back a little bit on meat and have more kinds of legumes and different types of stuff, just to try and level out or balance out the kind of resources that we have available to us. So a very, very interesting project to look into that, and at the end of it I come out with what made more sense at that time was biofuels. But things have moved on since then, and I recently, because of my boiler, it's getting to that stage where it needs replacing. And I thought, well, I'll look into what's available right now. I mean, it still works, thankfully. And so I'm not in a rush, where some people are. And so I looked into heat pumps, heat source pumps. And I thought, now a few years ago I looked into this and I thought, it doesn't sound too good. But I thought, I'll do due diligence. I looked into it again. And I got a quote, which was like 24 grand. Okay. 24 grand. And then you can get a grant from the government, which I thought, great, it's okay, how much is that? Just over 7 grand. But you have to have your house assessed, and you'd have to get new insulation. I thought, okay, well, that puts it back up again. And then your electric bill goes up, could be up to 4 times as much. But the idea is that you're using less, you're not using the gas. I thought, wow, the payback period for this, I don't know if I'll actually see that in my lifetime. So I'll be doing this for the benefit of whoever else moves into my house afterwards. They really wasn't selling this well to me, and it was an interesting process to go through, but obviously I'm not convinced. So the jury is still out on, come 30 years, when maybe the payback's already done, something else will come out and you'd have to pay for something else again. And of course things wear out, so would it pay back in the time it wears out? And this applies to all different technologies. Wind, wave is not something that's been really rolled out, but everything that comes in has got a payback period. And then in that payback period, something else comes out and is invented. So in this onward cycle of renewing these renewable energies because they wear out and so it's a constant cycle. But there we go. It's something I'm still looking into. So of course, with more people in the world, you've got different demands. So food demand could rise between 50 and 70% compared to today. With that improvement, some regions may face more frequent food shortages. That's potential. Farming may need to expand or radically increase efficiency through precision agriculture. And something you might have heard of lately is lab-grown meat or protein. probably not very appetizing for a lot of people. Genetically improved crops, which is already a thing, which is of much debate. It reduced food waste. Apparently, approximately 30% of our food goes to waste, so there's something that could be done there. But the outcome depends on innovation versus resource depletion, so there's a lot really to look into. Another thing would be increased water stress. Over half of our humanity may live in water-stressed areas, as population increases. Aquifers could be depleted faster than they could recharge, and desalination and water recycling will become more common. So that's already something that's looked into in different parts of the world through necessity, but it might become something that we might see closer to home. Also, higher energy demand. Energy use will surge, especially in developing regions. And if the transition to clean energy is slow, emissions could then rise. If renewables scale rapidly, emissions could decline even with more people. The outcome depends heavily on global energy policy and technology, obviously. We just don't know which way that goes. So urbanization will also expand as the population increases, so you might get more megacities, which could be between 10 and 20 plus million people. Like Shanghai, which I went to last in October, they have about 25 million people, and they are encouraged to have more children because they've seen a decline in their. All their economy is based on a certain size, and so they've seen a depletion because they could only have so many children. Now the request is have more children because we need to maintain this. Their ecological standpoint, that's where they're at. They need more people, but we might, and there's about just over 30 megacities in the world, and you might see an increase if we have more people. Housing shortages, unless cities plan ahead, so we're always increasing, or getting new houses. In some countries, families stay in one house, whereas what we do here is we tend to, as soon as we get old enough, we go and get our own houses. So that's always a demand. And of course, we will need smarter, denser cities, which may reduce environmental impact per person. Biodiversity loss and habitat pressure. So more people means more land converted for farming, housing, mining, and infrastructure. So this could accelerate species extinction, deforestation, ecosystem fragmentation, unless conservation practices scale up significantly. So it all sounds bad at the moment, but there's good news. Climate change, pressure increases. More people typically means more consumption, more emissions, more waste and materials used. Extreme weather risks grow, especially for vulnerable countries. But there is a potential positive. You've always got to look at the positive as well as the negative. Always see both sides. So we are always having technological breakthroughs, and so from that could have many benefits. So higher population means more inventors, scientists, and innovators. Maybe have we got enough? But as we go through education, we're always teaching people who have new ideas. So from that becomes new technologies. So advances may include efficient agriculture, clean nuclear fusion, carbon capture, desalination at low cost, and advanced materials that reduce waste. Always coming up with new materials which help in many different ways. Falling birth rates. Many regions are already experiencing shrinking populations and aging demographics. So Long-term global population may peak around 10.2 billion, so predicted, but then decline. So who knows? Depends on how good you look into the future, and you can only see so much from our current standpoint. So raising education and prosperity reduces the strain. When education and living standards rise, families have fewer children. I've seen a lot of people these days choose not to have children, which is everybody has to make that decision whether they want children or not. Environmental footprint shrink, so we're always looking at our CO2 levels and our carbon footprint and stuff like this, and a lot of people become more conscious of that. Stability and health improve, so there's not as need for, way back when you would have more children because the survival rate wasn't quite so much, whereas these days we have better medicines and stuff like this, so survival rates are much more improved. So what's the overall picture? Earth reaching 10 billion people is not a doomsday scenario. It increases pressure on systems which are already under strain. So worst case would be widespread resource scarcity, food and water crisis, high emissions and rapid climate change, habitat collapse and mass extinction. That's worst case scenario. But best case is clean energy dominance, sustainable food systems, circular economy with low waste, stabilizing or declining population, and healthier ecosystems through rewilding and innovation. So most likely a mixed scenario, significant stress but manageable, and strong planning and technological progress. So it all depends, you don't get nothing without effort. So it means, if you put the effort in, we'll reap them rewards. It's something to think about, both sides of the argument. And I'm sure we will manage in one way or another, because that's what humankind do when faced with such things. So now I'm going to play a video, and it's got words, so you can sing along if you like, or you can just listen. It's called Blue Boat Home, and it's oops, I'll go back. It's a Unitarian song I found.
Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. thanks to the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Breathe the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Blue boat
So we often gather in a spirit of reverence for the earth, which is our oldest teacher and our most patient companion. Before any scripture was written, before any ritual was named, we learned who we were in relationship with the soil beneath our feet, the air in our lungs and the water that carried us. Creation is not simply the backdrop to our lives, it is the living fabric of which we are part. We often speak of the interdependence of web of all existence. In the interfaith world, we might say, all life is a single breath shared across many forms. No matter the language, the truth is the same. We are not separate from the earth, we are expressions of it. So teachings from many traditions will all speak in one way or another of the sacred reciprocity. Indigenous traditions remind us that every gift demands gratitude. Buddhism teaches the interconnectedness and nature of all things. And Christianity speaks of stewardship, care for the least of these, including the voiceless ones of the earth. And Hinduism sees the divine presence in mountains, rivers, and forests. And humanism tells us that meaning grows from our shared responsibility. Different languages, one message. Life is relational. What we do to the earth, we ultimately do to ourselves. So we know the science, and we know the urgency, and we know what is at stake. But beneath the statistics, beneath the politics and the policies, there's a deeper question. What kind of relationship are we choosing to have with the world that sustains us? So the climate crisis is not only a crisis of carbon, it is also a crisis of forgetting. Forgetting that the trees breathe with us, the oceans cradle us, the soil feeds us, and that we too are nature. We have been living under an illusion of separateness, that one that has been costly for the earth, and ultimately costly for ourselves. Last year, the concentration of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere rose by 3.5 parts per million in a single year, the largest increase since humans first began keeping records. So the global average has now reached more than 423 parts per million, over 50% higher than before the industrial age. Scientists tell us that the natural carbon sinks, the forests and oceans that have lovingly absorbed our excess for generations are now beginning to weaken. And oceans, which cradle 90% of planet's excess heat, are warming at record levels. The great green lungs of the earth are now tiring. Sea levels now rise about 4.7 millimeters every year, a number small enough to escape our daily notice, yet large enough to reshape coastlines and unsettle millions of lives. So quite a few statistics to think about there. And as we think about that, we can go into our next hymn, which is number 189, We Celebrate the Web of Life. So I was recently at an interfaith dinner and dialogue about climate and ecology. And it was really nice listening to what each representative had to say concerning their faith related to the theme. So there was practical things such as smaller spaces for worship, so that you didn't have to heat up all that space. Because churches can be quite large. So, if you've got a great big church, you've got if you're heating the air, there's a lot of air in the church, so it's quite, it takes quite a lot of energy to do that. One of the other things was not printing out the order of service. So that's another thing. So again, it's all ink and electric for printing and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of ideas a bit like that from different people. But I came to it from I was ordained with the One Spirit Foundation, and so I came to it from that perspective. And so it's good to give what, as a One Spirit kind of organisation, the kind of thing which is taught in our ministry training. So some of the things we look at is having respect for different faiths, which means respect for different people and respect for what they believe in. And a lot of indigenous faith beliefs are very connected to nature and to the land, to water, to everything, really. And so we see in a lot of different faiths, and from the representatives that was there, eco-grief, which is apparently a real thing. Feeling sorrow for, how the land is treated, how things are failing, how things are disappearing, like coral reefs and stuff like that. And it looks very heavily at reciprocity between the land, what it gives to you, and what we give back to the land, and how we treat it with respect, with ceremony, and with balance, and with that, the land takes care of us, and we take care of the land. And so this is the type of things that we talk about, and we teach in one spirit. So we talk a lot about the relationship between, we listen deeply to each other as part of the training. We do counselling, so we listen deeply, but it's not just listen deeply to humans, it's listen deeply to nature and what that has to say and what that's trying to say to us, as well as to animals and all of life, really. Again, having that deeper connection with everything. And so we look at the grammar of animacy, which is, we might look at a tree or plant and we might, call it it, for want of a better thing. We all have pronouns, he, her, him, they. Well, in some, like Native Indians, they don't use that kind of language when they refer to a river or a group of trees. It's more of a who, and it's she or the people. So the pecan people or the pecan trees. It's not an it. It's more of a relationship. And so, if you were to think of nature in them terms, you would think twice, about chopping down her as opposed to chopping down it. Of course, there's needs of existence, and so these things happen, but we do it with respect. And through that respect, like one of the ideas through one of the Indian thought processes, you only take half. You only take what you need, so you take half of the crop, or you only take half, so that the rest can flourish. And there's been a lot of scientific research into that if you were just to leave a crop, it gets congested and doesn't grow quite as well. If you harvest too much, then it struggles to reproduce, and the harvest again next time is not so much. But if you harvest economically, then it flourishes and it responds, it tries to fill in them gaps, and so it continually feeds you. That's some of the scientific approach to it. So having that kind of relationship with the nature and the earth provides the reciprocity, which we all depend on. So I had quite a, you can see here, there's quite a list which I'm not going to go through, but it really just goes through everything that we learned in our 2 years, and how we respected not only each other but nature itself as well. I don't want to go too much through this. So it just goes on about different religions and faith paths, and how each one really interact with that. But because I was in a dialogue with different faith paths and different representatives, I didn't really have to go deep into that. But it was good to hear each person and what they had to say, and I'm hoping at some point that I'll get more is going to come out of this. This is going to be an ongoing thing. And I've not quite got the minutes back from that last meeting, but it'd be good to have that back and share what each person had to say, because each person was doing a brief introduction to that, but they had lots more that they could have said, and things that was written down, so it'd be good to see that. But one story that came out of that, which I must share, was from the Brahma Kumaris. And there was a woman there from India who was also in the group, and she said that they'd been given a plot of land, Now, they was told that nothing would grow on it because the land wasn't very fertile, it wasn't very good. But they tried to plant crops anyway, and they found that they were successful in planting crops. And they put it down to the practice of Raj Yoga. And so to prove this, to do a bit of an experiment, they decided to go out among the half of the crops and they would meditate this Raj Yoga. And then the whole other half of the crops they just left alone. And they found that the half in which they meditated amongst grew more fertile crops, and the other half, while still produced a crop, wasn't as good as the other half, which was very interesting sort of idea. I'm realizing I'm sort of getting near to time, so I'm going to go straight into our little video here, which is quite interesting.
This fascinating experiment might just freak you out. After 11 days using only the power of my words,
Hate you, you piece of shit.
I was able to grow mold on this rice and keep this jar of rice completely clean. This experiment was first done by Dr. Emoto, and you can actually try yourself. You make rice, separate them into jars, label one for good words and one for bad. Then 2 times daily you look completely silly and you speak into the jars accordingly. One for positive affirmations and one with foul, vulgar, hateful language. And after some period of time, you'll start to notice a difference between the two. As you can see, this one is full of mold. This experiment proves that the words we say and the thoughts we think in our head can physically manifest over time. Listen to me when I say that your words hold more meaning than you will ever know. What we say to others, what we say in our own heads, your whole environment is affected by your words. So next time you speak down about yourself or even others, remember the rice experiment and how much value your words have.
I've never tried this experiment myself, but I've heard about there's lots of examples that you can find on the internet of people trying this and coming out with the same result. So it might be something that you might want to do sometime. But apparently, it all comes from Dr. Emoto. So he says that water retains energy, like our thoughts and everything are energy, and our words are energy, and it retains. He suggests that all matter, including thoughts and emotions, are vibrational energy, because water is highly responsive to vibration. It can record or mirror the energy it encounters. So that example, that rice example being a good advocate for that. So when water is exposed to positive, loving or harmonious influences, the words love, gratitude, and like classical music, the result is ice crystals form symmetrical, intricate and aesthetically pleasing shapes. When water is exposed to negative influences like harsh words, heavy metal music, or angry thoughts, forms irregular, fragmented or incomplete crystals. So Emoto connects his findings with human health and global harmony, arguing that since humans and Earth are primarily composed of water, our thoughts, words and emotions may have direct impacts on well-being, individual and collective. So one of the book's core messages is that combination of love and gratitude introduces the most harmonious and beautiful crystals, symbolizing the ideal emotions state for humans. So this is probably how this rice can rather stay without getting molded, and some go molded because it's been treated unfavorably. Of course, while inspirational, Emoto's claims are not accepted by mainstream science. So critics point out a lack of rigorous controls and reproducibility. But nonetheless, the book is influential in metaphysical, spiritual and holistic health communities. For for its messages about positivity and intention. So it gets a lot of positive following from different people. So in my training we also did spiritual activism. So what is that? If you think of activism as being forceful and throwing yourself in front of something to stop, something being ripped up, we can think of hope being composed from small faithful acts such as tending a garden, reducing waste, advocating for climate justice, voting with compassion, supporting renewable energy, and teaching children to love the earth. These are ways of spiritual activism for climate and ecology. So with that thought, we'll go into our final hymn. And this is 211 in the Bible book, Where Are the Voices for the Earth? So I know personally I have a long way to go to contribute positively in this respect and on this theme, but these things just are rising for me just now, and so this is what I share. So may we leave this place with thoughtful ruminations for the world where we live, a renewed reverence for the earth that holds us, a renewed hope for a world restored as our numbers